Okay, Mike. I think we can just jump into the big NPD rundown for 2017. Why don't we start with the top 10 best-selling games for the year? I mean, you know what number one is. If you had to guess, what would you say it is?
It's Call of Duty.
It's a Call of Duty, of course.
I mean,
Just
at
like
least
every
this
year.
year. I mean, it was it. The big surprise was that it was last year, to be honest, when it was
Yes.
Infinite Warfare and everyone was like, "This isn't even that good." Everyone's like,
And it
"Oh,
was
sales are
clearly a
down."
downturn in sales. Clearly, like it was very
Yeah,
obvious in the way Activision was behaving and the way they talk about World War II this year. Yes, last
and
year's
that it
still
was
number
still number
one.
one last year.
Yeah.
So this
So
year, yeah, World War II was it like came out in November. It was like immediately number one. So
yes,
man, people still it's funny how just a single thing like going back to World War II can get people that excited.
and
But
it does seem like, to me at least, it does seem like it is basically just that they just went back to World War II and that was enough. I think people just people like sci-fi, but I think a lot more people are just like, what is this double jump? What are these jetpacks? What is wall running? This is stupid. Put boots on the ground. I love boots on the ground. And yeah, they showed up. And I mean, people that weren't like, tracking this game, which I think a lot of people, who pay attention to stuff that's happening in gaming, lose track of these games that are so big that they like that they never play. Call of Duty World War II did come out, and it was a huge success. Activision was saying it's the best selling version of Call of Duty since 2012, like Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 2 was probably their number one best seller because they just kept going up and up and up each year. And then I think since then it has gone down and down and down. So to jump back up to that level, yeah, it's a behemoth, and it will not be stopped. Speaking of a behemoth, this one's kind of grown over the last couple of years, and it keeps moving up this yearly annual chart. And that's something about this chart. A lot of these games are going to be franchises that show up every year. Number 2 is NBA 2K18. Does that surprise you at all?
I don't know if surprised. I mean, I've been kind of aware of this
Right.
game growing, right?
Yes.
It's strange now we're at this point where yeah, like the NBA 2K series is more popular than Madden,
Mm-hmm.
even though I guess it probably had more time out there on the market. But
Yeah, it
uh,
did a little bit, I
and I mean,
think.
yeah, I mean, we also we are football is a little bit on the downswing. I don't really know if NBA is on an upswing, but yeah,
Globally, it definitely is, but this is just a U.S. chart.
yeah. So it's a
Yeah,
little strange. I mean, sport like these big sports games, they do well. But yeah, number two is that's high, huh?
it's really high. But yeah, it seems like one of those games where there are people that want to play video games. They buy consoles and they get Call of Duty, they get NBA, and they get Grand Theft Auto. Um, and every year they go out and they get Call of Duty NBA, and then they just keep playing Grand Theft Auto online, I guess.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Destiny 2. Uh,
Isn't that funny how like every story about Destiny 2 has been, kind of about what's doing wrong. Everyone complains about it. I complain about a lot. I just was. And the idea is like, oh, you almost feel bad for Bungie because they're probably over there and their morale's probably low because everyone's mad at them. The game was the third best-selling game of the year.
yep. Yeah.
It must have made a ton of money.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, I could see like morale still being down because it had a huge first month. It came out. It was very similar to Call of Duty. It came out and it shot right to number one for like the trailing 12 months. So over the last 12 months, in the first month, just 1 month, Destiny 2 was the best selling game of this period. Call of Duty came out and beat it, but that's Activision as well. But I mean, Destiny 2, a big part of that game is ongoing monetization, and whether the game is succeeding at that, it probably is. I don't know, but they can't
Yeah.
love the fact that most people are just talking about the things they don't like about Destiny 2.
I guess I'm very confused how Destiny actually has such a mainstream. Like, I understand why I want to play it because I'm just like a nerd who likes grinding loot things and want something that's to be good. But I guess just like the power of like, oh, it's Bungie and it like looks very
Right.
pretty and it's they market
I'm
it
right there
well.
with you. I don't really
It
get
is
that.
weird that like so many people are like, yeah, I'm getting Destiny 2. Like like
Yeah, I
what
mean, we
do you?
talked about this. I think before it came out, you were skeptical of whether or not it was going to be like that big of a deal. You're like, Destiny 1 was this thing, and the people kind of fell off it. And I'm like, I think people still want their Destiny. There are some Destiny crazies out there, and yeah, they showed up for this game. Whether or not they're still there and will be there throughout the lifespan of this game, we'll see. Um, going from shooter to sports game and then shooter back to sports game. Number 4 is Madden NFL 18. Not surprising. This is about where it is on this list most years, in the 4 to 6 range. That's that's pretty good. I think a thing to point out is that 2017 is significantly better than 2016 in terms of overall spending. People spent more on both hardware and software.
18%, I believe.
Yes, I think that's right, and that I think that 18% that covers in-game purchases as well. I think if it's
it's hardware, peripherals, in-game purchases, and game sales, digital and physical.
Exactly. So yeah, that's so there's a lot more money flooding into the space. A lot of that is related to Switch. But the fact that if the Switch is on the scene and if those games are making more money, Madden has to make that much more to stay at number 4, and it did. So that's pretty good. I think EA's probably feeling pretty good about that. They got FIFA everywhere else. I think FIFA was like one of the top 10 bestsellers on Xbox as well. It doesn't make this list. Number 5, our first Nintendo game, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, came out in March. Was a launch game for the Switch. It also did pretty well on the Wii U, actually. As the last game on that system. This is the number 1 like single platform game on this list. I think it's the only. Well, no, there's some a couple other Nintendo.
All the Nintendo games, basically.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I mean, if you count Wii U, it's like okay, that's probably part of that.
It would probably still be number 5, maybe number 6.
Right, and another thing is that the Nintendo games are the only ones that have no digital sales. We mentioned Destiny 2, that included its digital sales on PS4 and Xbox One. Not PC.
Not Battle.net. Yeah.
Right, exactly, yes. But most of those digital sales, like still, relatively speaking, are going to be on consoles. Just came out there first, and that's how it breaks down, typically. Even for games that are huge on PC, like Rocket League, still only like 20% play on PC relative to the consoles. So Destiny 2, up there without the PC sales. But The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, number 5, with no digital sales. And that game did very well digitally because a lot of people are buying their games on Switch digitally. It could be even higher on this list, but
I think it's really neat, isn't it? Seeing
yes, it's like the game came out in March and it continued to sell. I think it was on the top 10 in December. I didn't include the December top 10, but I think it was like 8 or 9 for that month. So people were picking up their Switches for the holiday. They were getting maybe the Super Mario Odyssey bundle I think is out there. And they were picking up Zelda alongside of it.
Yeah, and it's not a great comparison, but I just looked up 2011 top 10 selling games. Actually, this is a worldwide list, but there's no Skyward Sword on there.
Right.
The Wii had a big
install base, right? Yeah, people burned out of the Wii system by that point. So they
burned out of that. But even the Zelda series at that point, right? Like Skyward Sword was definitely not received like Breath of the Wild was. Breath of the Wild felt like a big deal.
Yep.
And the sales reflected that, so it's cool.
Yep, it felt important, and the numbers reflect that. Another thing to point out is that this is not unit sales. This whole list is sorted by dollar amount, like the spending on it. So, kind of a little bit of a thing there, but this should be about the same. Most of these games are $60. Number 6, Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean,
well, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. This game came out in 2013, and it has been on this list every year since. This is the second year in a row. It was number 6 in 2015. I think it was number 4.
How does it not drop even a spot?
Exactly. It doesn't. It doesn't drop.
Spot.
Right. Yeah.
Not even a spot.
There's like several games like we haven't mentioned yet that are ginormous that Grand Theft Auto 5 still sold better than those. And, sure, it's not $60 anymore. I bet most people are getting it for $40. I don't know. I would imagine it still has a pretty high price.
I think it's actually still $60.
God, it might be.
I might be wrong. I think it is though.
Yeah, and this doesn't include like secondhand sales, so it wouldn't include the sales price, all right, the cut price you get for a used game. This is just bananas. People are buying it for Grand Theft Auto Online. That's something I was sort of resistant towards at first. I was like, no, people just like Grand Theft Auto. They recognize the name. They show up for it. No, GTA Online, like having that kind of mode makes these games just last so much longer, and that's why you're going to see so many other games going this game as a service route. Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming, and it's going to emulate a lot of this stuff. I'll be interested to see how they try not to like cannibalize GTA Online. Next, number 7, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. So this is it was a departure for this series. It went open world. You're exploring like with your buddies online, kind of just doing missions out in this South American jungle. But when it came out, it was like instantly a hit. It was probably the number 1 or 2 bestseller for like the first 6 months of the year, right alongside Zelda. I guess over time it does seem like it fell off more than Zelda because they both came out in March, and Zelda kind of kept going, and Wildlands fell off. And I think what happened is Siege just sort of kept going. So the people that were maybe like thinking about like, oh, I like Tom Clancy games, they were probably seeing Siege continuing to grow, and they went that way instead of Wildlands, which that makes sense. This next one, number 8, Star Wars Battlefront 2. So, yeah, it made the top 10. It was number 2 for December, the number 2 best-selling game. But, this is actually probably not where EA was hoping this game would land. I say that because in 2015, Grand Theft Auto 5, we mentioned earlier, was like number 5 or 4 on that list. And then Battlefield 1 was right above it. It was like one spot ahead of it. Battlefront 2 is quite a bit behind Grand Theft Auto 5. This is 2 years later. Battlefront 2 is a new game. Grand Theft Auto 5 still an old game. That's probably not where they wanted it on this list.
No, the point is, I mean, it's pretty clear that the controversies and everything cost that game money. Sure, It's still sold. Still charted, which is but they obviously missed out on revenue there from just kind of bungling and maybe things getting out of hand. But probably lessons learned there. I mean, it was one of the big stories of the year, really. I mean, we said before, we look back through our stories that just which ones were the most popular, and like for me and you, a lot of ours were just the ones we wrote about Star Wars Battlefront 2, and people couldn't really stop reading about it.
Yep, and that was one of those things that really got out there into the mainstream. So everyone knew about it. It was very similar to the Xbox One launch. It felt like it also feels like we're going to get one of these kinds of things every couple of years, where the controversy is so huge and so loud within gaming that people hear bits and pieces about it out in like GameStop stores, and they start asking questions, and then they get these very skewed but often pretty accurate ideas of what was happening, even if they're outdated sometimes. The last 2 games are the other 2 games from Nintendo, Super Mario Odyssey at number 9 and Mario Kart 8 at number 10. Odyssey came out in October. It was selling very well. It was making the top 10 charts each month between then and December. But also, like I would probably point out this too could be higher on the list, not just because, again, no digital sales, but unlike Zelda, the Mario Odyssey bundle came out, I think, like day and date. It was right out there. It was out there pretty quickly. And this list doesn't include bundled software. It's only software like that is sold individually, piece by piece. But yeah, still very good for Nintendo, especially to have the most games on the top 10.
Right.
3.
I mean, God, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I mean,
right.
It's a port practically, right? And it's just, that had to be pretty easy money for them.
Exactly. And that game's just going to keep selling. So yeah, I wonder what they're thinking about like the Mario Kart series and whether or not they need to do a new original one.
I don't think they feel a huge rush to. Maybe in a couple years,
right?
They'll do one, but they kind of bought themselves a little time with that to really go on that.
So that's the top 10. We'll kind of get through the rest of these little tidbits of news from the NPD. Hardware, what system do you think was number 1 for the year, Mike?
Well, I'm reading your list, so I know that was the PlayStation 4.
Oh, you're a fucking cheater.
Well, you give this to me to look at while we do the podcast.
I still feel like it's cheating. In my gut, that's what it feels like. PlayStation 4 was number 1.
I mean, you would think Switch, right? Because it was all the news stories. But
yeah.
PlayStation 4 had a couple months.
January is a big month for console sales. People take their gift cards and they go out and they get it. But I would expect actually next year it will be Switch, like once they go year to year. And we'll see. We'll see what games come out, but that's going to keep selling very well. But we don't know like how it shakes out after that. I would expect Switch was number 2, probably pretty easily.
Yeah.
But in December, like that's not to say like Xbox One is not selling. In December, Switch was number 1, but Xbox One was number 2, and then PS4 was number 3. So
Man, that must be the first time PlayStation 4 has been number 3 in a while. Maybe there were other ones. I mean, the Xbox One X did just come out.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's kind of weird to hear PlayStation 4 is number 3.
For
But
sure.
the kind of takeaway from this is that there's good news for everybody, right?
Yes.
It seems like so. That's nice. The market's growing. All these consoles are doing well. It seems good.
Yeah, and in fact, that's the quote from Matt Piscatella over at NPD. Over the first 50 months in the market for each console, the combined hardware installed base of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One now exceeds that of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 by 18%, and that of the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, the original Xbox, by 4%.
That's great. I mean, the PlayStation 2 is the best selling system ever. Xbox, not so much.
Right, exactly. But like, you could see like what they're saying is that market that was always there. That I think you can exclude Nintendo fans into their own zone, like off to the side. And if you look at the people who were deciding between PlayStation and Xbox over time, that market has grown. And then the Nintendo Switch came in this year, and they weren't like pulling people away from Xbox and PlayStation 4. Like apparently they were just addressing this market that was people that either were always just Nintendo fans or people that were like, oh, I like the idea of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but it just doesn't fit into the way my life is working right now. Switch does. So yeah, like clearly the market's just it's ballooning, it is growing, it is addressing new people that were kind of either falling away from games or were kind of standing off to the side waiting for something to come along that could have hit them in a way that they wanted to be hit. That kind of does it. There's like just one other bit. Like Activision Blizzard had the best, like made the most money over the year. Not surprising, they had the number 1 and number 3 game. I would expect Nintendo's not too far behind. I think
Activision Blizzard still has that Hearthstone, Overwatch.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. We could probably wrap that up. I just kind of wanted to go over the NPD numbers this week. Next week we'll try to return with a show with a second half topic. But the NPD was going to take up enough time this week that I felt we could just cover that.
It's all good.
Yeah. So why don't we wrap up by telling everybody where they can find us, Mike? We'll start with you.
You can find me at GamesBeat, always writing stuff there, and also I do the Exploding Barrel podcast every week. That's at ebpodcast.com. On Twitter, I am Tolkoto, TOLKOTO.
And I am Jeff Grubb on Twitter. YouTube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I think I'll be having a video of this Logitech wheel. And actually, there's this Logitech wireless mouse, and it actually it's wireless charging, so you don't ever have to plug it in. The mouse pad creates an electric magnetic field or whatever, and it charges it. I don't know. I'm sure it's giving me like all the cancers right now. But it's very cool. So I'll be having videos of those going up pretty soon. You can check them out there. Finally, check it. Yeah, come back next week. We'll be back. Me and Mike, maybe with some other people from GamesBeat. Otherwise, we're going to get out here and let you guys get back to your lives.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, kiddos.